mentioned many of the views that are out there, including the Democrat presidential hopefuls and so on. What would you recommend if a candidate came to you and asked for policy guidelines? What's your view? You mentioned one thing, abuse of dominance, so maybe it's something that you expand on?
Sure. Most of the interesting frontier issues and cases we've talked about for the last day and a half have been brought under the rubric of an abuse of dominance, and it's a fair debate to talk about the German case as to whether it was successfully using the existing EU and German national law to say that Facebook abused its dominance by its various data collection policies and the changes, and whether it could have done so as a result of its dominance or not. The U.S. just doesn't have that in its toolkit right now. And there are other issues that distinguish the United States from the rest of the world community. And I've done a bunch of writing and speaking about how, in many ways, how isolated we are. And I think it's going to change all conversations about convergence. I think the United States, if it's serious about convergence, is going to be a buyer, not a seller, in terms of competition levels. So if you wanted the most bang for your buck, I would recommend to a presidential candidate or a sitting legislature, rather than comprehensively rewrite our antitrust laws to deal with these issues or anything else that you're concerned about, is to add the phrase after the end of Section 2, comma, or the abuse of dominance, period.
So you
5 words.
You think there are cases that are... So you think there are cases that are pursued in Europe and not in the U.S., and the reason is not a different point of view, but they're blocked by the tools at their disposal?
Yes, I mean, I think it's incumbent. I think it's incumbent for democratic institutions, which are primarily legislative in nature, to set out the goals for any set of laws, not just antitrust, and language that's reasonably designed to achieve those goals. And there's no preamble to the Sherman Act; it just has the vague quasi-constitutional language that it does. It's been around for a long time, and as a result, it's provided ways for the agencies and the courts to impose their own views based on their prevailing notions of what's a good idea. I don't think that is consistent with a functioning democracy. I think, in fact, it's the opposite of regulatory humility, as long as the legislature clearly expresses a value or a set of values. Whether or not they conflict, that is a democratic prerogative, and it's a conversation that all the other players in the system have that then results, hopefully, in some feedback to the legislature to do a better job in round 2, and you have kind of a virtuous circle over time. And I think we're having that kind of moment in the United States where we've seen some of the limitations of our ability to deal with unilateral conduct, particularly in light of how the Supreme Court has essentially done more or less 3 moves. One is to restrict the substantive scope of Section 2 in different ways. The second move is more procedural, which is to limit class actions in general, which is just how many cases are brought. And 3, another way that I think the U.S. poorly performs versus other competition systems and other legal systems is a line of Supreme Court cases that allows most companies to opt out of litigation and class actions through arbitration clauses. And there's various proposals to deal with all 3 of them. And, you don't deal with this just by changing language in the antitrust law. You have to have a broader view about goals, languages, the institutional concerns that Bill is focused on for much of his career, as well as procedures and remedies. I point to a lot of the work that Harry First has published. On the remedy side, it's probably not enough to have civil injunctions or cease and desist orders to be the only remedy for a civil violation of competition law. And the United States has the ability to learn from the rest of the world that fines are not the sole answer, but there's probably better than not having fines. And so I'd be supportive of changes that would include remedies along those lines on the civil side. And I'd be supportive of the continued push for criminalization of abroad as well. So I mean, we have things to sell, we have things to buy.
Another question for everyone